Right now on Movie Review Talk, you have Alita, Battle Angel, Rebel Wilson in Isn't It Romantic, and new on Blu-ray, Bohemian Rhapsody. Hey there, movie fans. Welcome to Movie Review Talk. I'm your host, Scott Movie Mantz. Every week, we review the new films. We pick something new on Blu-ray. Maybe it's something you missed, although I doubt it, judging by the box office of this week's pick. And every week, I'm joined by guest critics. Here's the beauty of it. No spoilers. Do not worry. We're not going to spoil anything. Well, nothing huge. You know, sometimes things get through the cracks, but nothing major. Like I would never say, wow, how about that part that Rosebud was a sled? Or, gee, did you know that Bruce Willis was dead?
He was dead.
The whole time?
In Die Hard?
In Die Hard. Yeah, the movie's called Die Hard. It's right there in the title. But every week I'm joined by guest critics, and this week I'm joined by two very special people, friends, colleagues, peers, members of the LA Online Film Critics Society. We had our second show and it was amazing. Yep. Coming back, making his second appearance on Movie Review Talk, Nestor Bentancor. It is great to have you back, and yes, you are the best looking guy in this room.
Thank you so much. I wear that as a badge of honor. And let me tell you, that second show of our association was great because of you.
Ah,
you are the greatest showmans.
Oh, the greatest showmans.
Yes.
I love it. Give it. That gets a high five now. And making her first appearance on Movie Review Talk, my very good friend Kit Bowen. She is the editor and critic at Screen Picks. She has also been a contributor to Rotten Tomatoes and Fandango.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
To Movie Review Talk.
Finally, right?
Look at this.
I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
And I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time. I know that your day job, big shout out to my good friends Adam Malin and Gary Berman at Creation Entertainment.
Yeah.
Who've been putting on the best sci-fi conventions.
Fan conventions.
Since 1971.
Star Trek, baby.
Star Trek, Xena, The X-Files.
Supernatural.
Yep. You know it, they do it the best. But now, let's just get right to it with this week's movies. The first film is Isn't It Romantic, directed by Todd Strauss-Schulson, starring Rebel Wilson, Liam Hemsworth, Adam Devine, and Priyanka Chopra. Rebel Wilson plays an aspiring architect who is disenchanted in love. She gets knocked out from an accident. Lo and behold, she wakes up to find herself in a nightmare, living in an actual romantic comedy with all of the tropes and cliches on display. Kit, I'm going to go to you. What did you think of Isn't It Romantic?
I had so much fun with this movie. I really did. I mean, Rebel Wilson, I've actually always liked her, and I've really enjoyed her performances. But this time she got a chance to really anchor something, to shine. She didn't have to play it over the top. She didn't have to be the wacky sidekick. She just got to play the part, and I think she did a really good job. I mean, beyond the whole premise of it, that she wakes up in this, by the way, it's really not that horrible of a world because her life is pretty perfect, and she's got this really great apartment, and everybody loves her, right?
Yeah, right. It's not a nightmare at all.
But according to her, because she doesn't believe in love, so that's the whole idea behind it. But I think she did a great job. And there's some poignancy to it. It really is a great message to the movie, I think, which is to kind of love yourself as well as finding love in life or whatever. But yeah, I really liked it.
How about you, Nestor?
Yeah, it was fun and it was very sweet. I mean, this was the same director who did The Final Girls 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And in that movie, he was playing with the conventions of the horror and slasher genre. So he had the opportunity to do the same with romantic comedies. And I think that he succeeds to a point in the sense that I think that the goals of the movie are not that ambitious. They make fun of some stereotypes and they have fun with that. And at the same time, they want to be a romantic comedy at the same time. So that is not easy. I appreciate that. I think that Rebel Wilson does a good job. It's a fairly short film, an hour and a half or so.
90 minutes, baby.
So, and all the acting is pretty solid. I don't see any performance like Awkwafina, for example, in her
Crazy
movies.
Rich Asians, yeah.
I don't see anybody like really, standing out that much. But as a whole, the movie, I think that is very amusing. I wish they would use more music numbers, because the music numbers are great, especially the last one.
Yeah.
And I think that would have improved things a little bit more. Before I forget, if you like this movie, like when you shop for Amazon, on Amazon, if you like this movie, check out Ana Maria in Novela Land. It's a movie from 2015, all Latino cast making in the United States, with a character that goes into a telenovela, and the character of the telenovela goes into the real world.
It's
a similar premise.
Similar premise.
And it's a lot of fun, too.
And it's called what?
Ana Maria in Novela Land.
Ooh, and it's on like Amazon or one of those things?
Yeah, go online. It's there.
Oh, okay. That's a good pick. But listen, generally speaking, I have to say, I'm not a big fan of romantic comedies, for the very reasons that this movie very effectively makes fun of. I love that the whole purpose of the film is to sort of wink, wink, nudge, nudge, make fun of all of the stereotypes, of all of the cliches that we have come to expect, for better or worse, from a romantic comedy. This movie does that. Some ways are clever, some ways are just on the nose, but for the most part, it's very entertaining. And like you pointed out, this movie makes fun of these cliches while also being a pretty effective romantic comedy unto itself.
Yeah.
And, that's a tough rope to walk. And this movie, for the short time, in the 90 minutes, it does a very, very good job of it. I'll tell you who I really liked in this movie. I hear what you're saying about Awkwafina. I mean, she kind of stole Crazy Rich Asians. But for me, I would say the scene stealer to an effect in this movie was Adam Devine.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he was really funny, but also really sweet. He wasn't just like the funny sidekick, sort of the object of her affection, Rebel Wilson's affection. And to your point, Kit, this movie is profound and poignant, and it showcases Rebel Wilson in a way that we have not really had a chance to see her. Like, she's always been like the wisecracking best friend, the comic relief in her movies. She shows depth here. She shows range, more than you would expect for a movie like this. I really did enjoy this. When I think of like romantic comedies that I love, they tend to be movies that often aren't really classified as romantic comedies, quote unquote. Like, my all-time favorite really is 500 Days of Summer. That's just a brilliant movie. And then you have to think back and go, oh yeah, I guess it is a romantic comedy, isn't it? Yeah. Even though it doesn't have the happiest ending in the world, and because it is a musical, and because it does have some serious moments, La La Land is kind of a romantic comedy, I mean, everybody knows I love La La Land.
I would call it a romantic dramedy.
I mean, listen, I love La La Land so much, I could even argue that there's a sci-fi thing going on in that movie. Yeah, because of no, maybe not.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Isn't It Romantic? But, I mean, like, don't you think, how did you feel about the way the movie sort of like made fun of these, like, cliches that we've seen, like the cues and the music and, like the Pretty Woman stuff and all that?
And it's just great. And I was going to say about Rebel and Adam, they've been working together for a long time now, and you can see that on screen. I mean, they have a very easy rapport between each other, and they just have looks like they have some genuine affection. I'm going to say one thing. Out of all the movies that I saw this week, this one, I think the cast probably had the most fun making. I mean, it looked like they were having a blast. Like you were mentioning the musical numbers.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on. Yeah. Throw in a musical number, you've got me. I mean, you do. And especially if it's done really, really well. And these were,
Musical number.
Musical numbers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Two of my favorite rom-coms both have musical numbers in them. Remember 500 Days of Summer?
Yes,
My Dreams
that's
Come
exactly
True?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, well, what's your letter grade, Nestor?
I will go with B minus.
B minus. Only a B minus.
Only a B minus. I mean, it's amusing. It tickles you from beginning to end. I didn't, laugh out loud that many times, but I had a smile on my face most of the time. So I think that's fair.
That's not bad to have for 90 minutes, a smile. And you are the best looking
I need
guy
smiles.
in the room. So come on. Kit, what's your letter grade?
I give it a solid B.
Yeah, I give it a solid B.
I think it, yeah, like I said, I walked out of there happy. They accomplished what they were supposed to, and yeah. Solid B for me.
Well, speaking of happy, moving on to the next film is Happy Death Day to You, directed by Christopher Landon, starring Jessica Rothe, Sarah Sharma, and Israel Broussard. Picking up where the 2017 smash hit left off, Jessica Rothe again plays Tree Gelbman, who has to find out why she's living the same day over and over again and dying horribly at the end of it every single time. You got the Groundhog Day thing going on, you got the Edge of Tomorrow thing going on, and Nestor, what'd you think?
I mean, I really enjoyed the first movie, you know, because of the things that you mentioned. It was a mashup of different genres. And in this sequel, the first 15 minutes, I felt that they were going forward into a weirder territory, you know? And they stopped that and they decided to kind of go back into the first movie again, okay? It's a little bit different. And they are talking about Back to the Future 2,
yeah.
You know? And okay, that's fine. Here's the problem. Back to the Future 2 was 30 years ago. And the first Back to the Future
was 1985, yeah.
Really left an impression. Yeah. So you want to go back to the first Back to the Future because you remember it, because you have a strong attachment to the characters and what happened in the film. I don't think that the first movie did that to deserve us revisiting that first movie again. Mm-hmm. And I wanted this film to go into something closer in terms of science fiction, like time crimes or triangle in a way, those sci-fi concepts of Black Mirror, you know, things that really challenge the audience. And you're going to, wow, what is going on? Mm-hmm. And there is a scene that there's explaining what the multiverse is. It's like, okay, we are here for the sequel of a movie that was kind of different. We don't need to get all this explanation. Really go into something more different. And the movie stays in that kind of familiar territory. The movie changes in terms of comedy. You know, it has more comedy than the first one. The problem is it has less mystery and less horror. And that slasher element. And I think that detracts from the essence of this brand. And there is a point that I'm feeling I'm watching a CW show, like The Flash or something like that. It's like, I'm having fun, it's geek, I enjoy this, but I don't feel the thrills of the first movie.
Yeah.
Okay, what did you think of the first film, and how does the second movie compare, Kit?
I was completely surprised by the first film. I had no idea what I was going to be watching, right? I mean, I thought it would just be kind of a, you know, I mean, I got the premise, you know, the Groundhog Day-esque with dying having to die, but I was surprised how great it was.
And, first one was good.
And the horror and comedy was a nice mix in the first one. This one, I did like it. I mean, I think to Nestor's point, it you know, tonally it's different. They do try to do something more, you know, go beyond what the original was, and I think, you know, the whole sci-fi element to it was really cool, and tonally it was a lot funnier, and I think Jessica Rothe just totally sells this movie.
No, I love her. Yeah, she's awesome.
think she sold the first one, but she really gets into it for this one, and I think some of the stuff she does just sells it for me. But to his point, I felt like it kind of was going one way, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, we got to go back to the horror part, you know, and it kind of took me out of it a little bit, you know, at points when they had to sort of reference what happened in the first movie. But still, even to that, you know, there's a lot of more poignancy in this one as well. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of with the time travel and the multi-universes and whatnot. It's not time travel, I guess it's whatever.
Yeah,
that
alternate universe.
Loop.
Yes,
the loop. Yeah.
That is correct.
And I really liked the whole sci-fi aspect to it.
Yeah.
But still, there was poignancy to that character, to her character, and she grew even more, which I appreciated. So,
you know, those are both great points, and I agree with both of them. The first one, I expected nothing going into it. I thought it would just be sort of like a real sort of like super low budget, you know,
Blumhouse,
cash in the bank, Blumhouse kind of thing, which it was, but it was also much, much more than that. A pleasant surprise. And this film, more ambitious, definitely tried to adjust the tone a little bit more to funny and more of a tongue-in-cheek winking to the camera kind of thing. And more than the first movie, this movie reminded me of sort of like Scream, in the way that they know what it is. Everyone knows what this movie is. They're having fun with it. They're winking to the camera. They're making references to other films, specifically Back to the Future Part 2. If you're going to reference a movie, do the first one. I did not like Back to the Future Part 2. But anyway, that's just me. I thought it was a mess.
How about the third one?
Third one I loved.
Okay, everybody
The
seems
third one was great. Like when they finally get to the Old West, and that story, the third movie, Back to the Future Part 3, becomes more about Doc.
Right.
His love story than it is about Marty. But I digress here. But I thought Jessica Rothe was great in this movie. I really loved the humor. I thought it was a lot of fun. Not as scary as the first one, but definitely more fun in the humor department. It does suffer from sequelitis to the extent that it's more ambitious. They try to do more with it, and it's a little bit of a diminishing return. But as far as sequels go, it is better than most. I really enjoyed Happy Death Day to You, and I think that this is turning into a nifty little Scream-like franchise for Blumhouse.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, mister?
I think that, are we talking about grades now? Because I'm struggling between a B- and a C+. Because
that low?
I think that the sequel it is going backwards, and the movie shows you the potential to really push this into more interesting territories. They go for emotion. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it feels kind of too much, sugar-coated. And I'm not feeling the emotion here.
Yeah.
So, and I'm missing the whole mystery. Because there's a point where dying becomes a joke, Mm-hmm. So that is tricky. When you don't have that sense of danger, I understand what the goal of the film is.
It's not as suspenseful. I do agree.
But I think that something here is missing. They don't have the main writer of the first movie here. Mm-hmm. He's a writer-director. The director is writing the movie as well. Mm-hmm. So I feel that something is missing. And how the movie ends, I didn't like it at all. I hope that that's just a joke they're trying to throw, and it's not a setup for the next movie, because that's going to be even lower than a C+. So that's my grade, C+.
All right, C+, Kit.
I'm going to go B-, just because the parts that I was saying that took me out of it was like, we got to go do this now, kind of thing. While it was moving forward in a kind of a cooler way, I thought sequelitis, they tried to pull in some of the original stuff a little too much. But I really liked Jessica Rothe in this.
Yeah, I did too.
And it had that Groundhog Day feel to it, and she really pulled it off. So
I mean, like the first movie, I would give like an A-. I'm giving this one a solid B. I was entertained. Again, it's not a terribly long movie, which is always a good thing. I mean, I think if they keep this going, and I have a feeling they will, because they don't look like they're very production-wise very expensive to make.
Right.
But yeah, I kind of these movies are kind of fun in their own special way. And again, it did give me like a Scream-like vibe. And those movies, especially the first two Scream movies from '97 and '98, those are great. So I'm going to give it a B.
But they're also really kind of scary. I mean,
they are
full-on horror movies.
Listen, in the first movie,
Drew Barrymore.
When she gets killed, like that, and she's like on the phone with her parents saying, "Help me, help me."
She's running their parents are coming up the driveway, and she's running to them.
And that ghost face. I mean, that movie. I still, it's one of my favorite scary movies. Is the original Scream. All right, moving on to a movie that's been, according to its filmmakers, decades in the making, and it feels like it. Alita: Battle Angel, directed by Robert Rodriguez, written by James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez, and Leida Kalogridis. I know I'm butchering her name, and I'm sorry to hear that. But the movie stars Rosa Salazar, Christoph Waltz, Kian Johnson, and Mahershala Ali. And after a deactivated female cyborg is revived with her memory erased, she goes on a quest in the 26th century to find out who she really is. Kit, what'd you think of Alita?
I know it's been kind of a mixed bag, right? Let me say my initial reaction is I liked it.
Okay.
I walked out of there, I had a good time. It was an entertaining ride, some great action, unbelievable visuals. which is, the key to a James Cameron type movie. Even though Robert Rodriguez directed this, Cameron's fingers are all over it, especially the script. But
that's true. No, don't hold back, kid.
Okay. I do like James Cameron. I think he's a great filmmaker. I've loved his movies. The Abyss is probably my most favorite movie of his.
I like Aliens, but I'm with you on
and Aliens too. But I kind of give Aliens to Ridley Scott first because he created the world, right?
Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, The Abyss, except for the ending. Anyway, I just don't think he's that great of a writer. So that was the problem with this movie. Is the story just, there was like 3 different stories going on. The plot points weren't all very solid, and then some of the dialogue was pretty cheesy. But like I said, I was not bored. I was watching it completely engaged. And again, Rosa Salazar as the motion captured Alita was unbelievable. I mean, this whole week has been characterized for me by these great female performances who really make the movie stand out. So even though she looks kind of weird, and you have to get used to the look, of her, because some people are like, oh, her eyes are driving me crazy. I can't watch that. But
you get used to it.
You do.
Yeah.
And you get an explanation on why there are some human people and then some, completely CG people. So you get that explanation. But I thought Christoph Waltz was also quite good, and I think he and Rosa as Alita were really good together. I thought there was a lot of great chemistry between the two of them. The romance part to it kind of fell flat for me, but like I said, those are these plot points that just didn't really ring true. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Excellent point that the 4 new wide releases, including the next movie we're going to talk about, are all female-driven, female leads, strong female characters. 4 new movies this weekend, all with strong female leads. Very, very good point. What did you think of Alita?
Well, first of all, before all the geeks get mad at us, because we don't mention that this is an adaptation of a manga written by Yukito Kishiro 30 years ago. They did an animated movie 3 years later, and all that is pretty awesome. And this is a hybrid between Cameron and Robert Rodriguez. You can feel it on screen. I think that the main triumph of this film is Alita, the character. The movie invests a lot of time in building her as a character, the world, her relationship with Dr. Ido, played by Christoph Waltz. So in that regard, I think that the movie, the main goal of the film, it is successful. And when it comes to the spectacle, it's just jaw-dropping. It's like watching Avatar, Jungle Book. You have to see this movie in 3D.
Yeah,
we saw it in Dolby
I agree with that.
Cinema.
So seats were shaking.
It's just spectacular. So in that sense, the movie is amazing, and is you need to go see it. The thing is that when it comes to the story, the first hour and a half, I think they nailed it. They had that pretty well crafted in all regards, and I think that the movie works. The thing is that there is another 30 minutes after that, and you feel the movie trying to re-engage into that third act when you are already peaked. It's like when you saw Wonder Woman and you have that no man's land scene. That's the peak of the film. And the movie never reached that high again. And the last 30 minutes, it gets too clunky, too corny. It goes all over the place.
Alita.
On Alita Battle Angel. And the movie focused more on the side characters that didn't have the time that Alita had to be, for you to invest in them. At the same time, the movie is teasing a lot about stuff that you don't really get to explore in this movie, hoping for a potential second movie. So I think that's kind of a mistake. First hour and a half, awesome, amazing. Last 30 minutes, not that much.
I agree with both of you. So here's a film, because it was, they've been working on it for so long. It feels like it sort of missed its expiration date in terms of getting into theaters. If it come out 15, 20 years ago, I think it would have had a much, much bigger impact, and it would have felt fresh. As it is, it feels a bit stale. And even though Rosa Salazar is terrific, I thought the special effects were great. In a lot of ways, it felt derivative of other films that I felt in the end were better movies, or at least it just made me think of them, like Blade Runner, obviously. Anytime.
Elysium.
Yeah.
That was the other one.
Elysium is another one.
Or The Matrix.
The Matrix. Another one I thought of was Ready Player One.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the congestion. Yeah, the movie takes place in
in the future.
Yeah, it takes place in a 2563 or something like that. But, you know, it had that look that it's been done. And I agree with you about the subplots. The supporting characters felt stock. The love interest didn't really work. Nice guy, charming guy, but it wasn't really strong. The villain, played by Mahershala Ali, soon to be two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali for Green Book.
Pretty much, yep.
You know, like I felt like his portrayal of the villain, it just didn't really like jump out. But I did like the chemistry between Rosa and Christoph Waltz, two-time Oscar winner Christoph Waltz. The movie was a mixed bag. It felt too long. The story didn't grab me, but it did have good action scenes. The special effects are great. Rosa is amazing. So, but I do agree it's worth seeing, absolutely, to see it on the big screen.
Yeah.
So what's your letter grade?
Geez. I think I'm still going to give it a solid B. I almost thinking about B-, but I still enjoyed it. It's a great ride.
Yeah.
And it's a great popcorn movie. And I think, you know, if you like that kind of movie, then this is going to, you know, deliver for you, you know. And it is, like I said, Robert Rodriguez is a great director. So is, you know, James Cameron, obviously, great visionary. So I'm just curious, though, if they made it 15 years ago, they wouldn't have been able to make it like this, though. So I wonder, you know.
Well, I'm sure in terms of special effects, I mean, some of the motion capture stuff might not have been as effective.
Right.
But what you would have had was a fresh story with a fresh character.
Yeah.
And, you know, a famous filmmaker once said, a special effect without a story is a boring thing. You know who said that?
Steven
George
Spielberg?
Lucas.
Oh, it's one of those two.
You know, there was a documentary that came out in the early 80s called From Star Wars to Jedi, The Making of a Saga, in which George Lucas was recounting the making of the original Star Wars trilogy. And he said, well, I think it's almost verbatim, a special effect without a story is a boring thing. And that absolutely positively holds true. And it does make a difference with this movie. I agree with you. As a producer, as a director, I mean, James Cameron is one of the all-time greats. As a screenwriter, his screenwriting talent is not as strong as his directing and his producing, and he's a great ideas guy, you know. But some of the dialogue here was corny, and you know what? I love Titanic,
I know.
But in some ways, if you go back and watch that movie, some of the dialogue there doesn't hold up. Does not hold up. But,
which is fine for the last half of the movie because you're just on the sinking ship. That's all you need to worry about.
What's your letter grade, Nestor?
I go with a B+. You know, I think that the main goals of the film are achieved, and I want to just mention inclusion and diversity. This is the right kind of inclusion when you get actors that are not necessarily the first option that you can think of to fit a role in particular. So I really appreciate that someone like Rosa is getting the chance to be the protagonist of this film. And that is thanks to people like Robert Rodriguez that sets that goal to say, hey, let's open up, you know, because the studios, I'm sure, gave him like 10 names and he picked somebody outside of that box.
Yeah.
So I think that's also great.
Excellent point. My grade for this movie, I was leaning towards a B-, but after talking about it, I realized I liked it more than I maybe thought I did, so I'm going to give it a solid B. Right?
Yeah.
Solid B. Okay. Moving on now to what I have to say is my favorite movie, my favorite new movie of this weekend. Movie that I had no idea I was going to like at all, but I just love this film. It's called Fighting with My Family, directed and written by Stephen Merchant, who was in the movie Logan. He had that HBO series, remember Hello Ladies?
Well, he's The Office with Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
I mean,
I love that show, by the way. The Office too, obviously. So the cast is Florence Pugh, Vince Vaughn, Jack Lowden, and Dwayne Johnson, who produced and sort of plays himself in the movie a little. And this is based on a true story of Paige. Paige is a World Wrestling Entertainment champion and superstar. This is about her rise to fame and being a true superstar in herself. I thought this movie was a ton of fun, big heart. And I have to say, this movie is about the wrestling background and about that world, but I'm not into wrestling really at all. And I love this movie. You do not need to love or even like or know anything about wrestling to connect with all of the things that make this movie so good. What did you think, mister?
That was going to be my first point, because I know nothing about wrestling, and the movie...
Oh, come on.
What?
You are like the biggest wrestling fan.
Okay, here we go.
Here we go. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I forgot my mask. Where's my mask? My luchador mask. No, I don't know anything about it, but the movie is really using that as a backdrop to really center on the characters. And it's, you know, every good sports film is about the struggle, it's about the underdog story, is to follow a character or group of characters overcoming obstacles, and you are instantly charmed by this family. They are amazing. Mm-hmm. The characters are very colorful. The side characters, especially the parents, you know, played by Nick Frost and Lena Headey, they stole every single scene. Yeah. They are irresistible. So it's a very charming film, and I really think that the movie is something that is very familiar in the sense that it's following a standard kind of genre and mold, but it's seasoned with this British humor sensibility, and that gives it a unique flavor.
It had like a Richard Curtis feel to it, didn't it?
Yes.
What'd you think of this movie?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it. And it's a great sports movie. I mean, look, if a good sports movie works, it just works, period.
Right.
End
and
of
you
story.
Don't have to like the sport itself.
You know, you don't need to know the sport. You know, you're rooting for her the whole time. You know, she's the underdog, and how's she gonna rise above. And I just sprinkled with that. I like that, seasoned with the British sensibilities. I mean, it is. It's just, it really has that sensibility. And I'm sorry, you know, British films, they tend to always be good in a certain way, you know? I mean, and I think the whole family dynamics behind this just adds another layer to it, to the whole story. But yeah, and Florence Pugh, again, she's was great, you know? And she's kind of a newcomer, and I thought, wow, she did a really good job.
This film works for me for every other reason. And it just happens to be about a wrestler is just like sort of icing on that cake, because it is a relatable movie by any measure. And it is a charming, feel-good crowd pleaser, a lot of very heartwarming, a lot of humor. Again, another very strong female character, just like the other movies we talked about for different reasons here. I was very entertained. It was irresistible. Yeah. It was a rousing film in the way that she, like her struggles. And it's all, you know, based on a true story. I mean, Paige is a massive superstar. I think she has like 3 million followers on Twitter. And I just was totally charmed by the movie. I thought Florence Pugh did a great job. And Dwayne Johnson, who produced the film,
he has a great moment.
He is a couple of great moments in this movie, sort of playing himself.
Of course, why not?
Maybe not, you know, hopefully not. But it just... movie works for so many reasons. The family aspect of it, that sort of British sensibility aspect of it. You know, I talk about Richard Curtis, and he wrote and directed Love Actually, and he wrote the upcoming film Yesterday. Have you seen the trailer for this movie?
I thought maybe we might mention this because it is your nightmare, isn't it, Scott?
Oh, my God. We have to just quickly talk about this movie, Yesterday. It's directed by Danny Boyle, who won the Oscar for directing Slumdog Millionaire. And it's about this guy. He's an aspiring musician, and no one else in the world knows who the Beatles are. It's like they never existed. But this guy remembers everything about the Beatles, and he starts performing and playing their songs as if they were his own, because no one knows who John Lennon was. Nobody knows who Paul McCartney is. You know, we don't know if they're alive or if we've been born, but It is both a movie that I am super excited about, and I'm horrified by the prospect of it. Yesterday, it opens in June. But anyway, back to Fighting with My Family. Went off on a lot of tangents in this show.
Yes.
But that's what the show is all about. It's about conversation.
We love movies.
But Fighting with My Family, for me, I feel like that's the movie to see this weekend. It opens in select cities today, February 15th. Or actually, it opened on the 13th. But it opens nationwide on the 22nd. And absolutely, this is a film that we can use a platform like this to get people to see a film that deserves to be seen, one that they will absolutely love for it's got like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes as of today. What's your letter grade for Fighting with My Family?
I was going for a solid B, but with all this love, I'm going with B+.
Yes.
B+.
Up the grade, Nestor.
Let's do it.
I'm going to give it an A.
Yeah.
You know what else reminded me of? The Commitments. Remember that?
Oh, I love that movie.
But it's the same kind of a feel to it, And you're right. Let's give this movie some love. You should try to see this movie. It is really it will be very appealing to you. And then you can go see Alita and have the whole big spectacle.
I think that came out in 1991.
I love that movie.
I have to just throw in a movie release date here.
Because you know that.
But Commitments is a great movie. But yeah, you know what? You're right. That is a great example. Just this sort of scrappy rise to fame and following your dreams and, having to jump certain hurdles along the way. There's certain tropes and stereotypes or a model. There's a formula that these movies follow. And as long as they follow it effectively, then the movie works. And Fighting with My Family definitely works. I'm giving it an A as well. Really, really super fun. Okay. Now, new on Blu-ray, new on 4K. It's on digital. You can download it. You can rent it. You can stream it. Whatever you want. But this is a film that in about a week or so at the Academy Awards, this 5-time Oscar-nominated film with Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Editor, Best Sound Mixing, Best Sound Editing. This is the champion known as Bohemian Rhapsody.
Don't stop me now.
I mean, come on. This movie made $840 million worldwide. For my money, Rami Malek is the 100%. One to beat. That I mean, he really is going to get the Oscar. I really believe that. And I mean, the fact that the movie did get nominated for Best Picture when people were just saying, "Oh, it's just about his performance." Because remember when it first opened in the beginning of November, reviews were mixed.
It was rotten until a couple of days before releasing.
Yeah, it was like it was at 62% initially back.
Well, there's been some controversy behind it. That they took several liberties with the actual events that took place. Which I get it. But that last 15 minutes, that Live Aid totally makes the whole movie. I mean, besides Rami Malek's performance, which was amazing. But yeah, that you can't leave that. You cannot leave that theater not just totally pumped.
Listen, Live Aid is not just the best scene of the movie. Live Aid, for me, that Live Aid scene was one of the best scenes of any movie released in 2018. Because, the first time I saw the film, for the first, 40 minutes to an hour, I felt like it was sort of a formulaic rock biopic, sort of hitting all the right notes, no pun intended, about, this is when they recorded Killer Queen, this is when they recorded Bohemian Rhapsody, this is when they recorded We Will Rock You. But the second hour of the film is when it really hit its stride. That's where it got good. That's where it found its identity. That's where it got more poignant and profound and emotionally moving when you realize that Freddie Mercury, as popular as he is, he was still very lonely and struggling to embrace his identity at a time when his identity was not universally embraced. But then, the movie got better as it went along. And I've now seen the movie 5 times. And I just loved the whole film. How do you stand? Where do you stand on Bo Rap, as they call it?
I love the experience of watching Bohemian Rhapsody, and a couple of things. The first scene they shot was the Live Aid scene because they wanted to match the sunlight. So even that, it is incredible. I think that you always need to ask what are the goals of a film. The goals of these films were to make a kind of a crowd pleaser, blockbuster, celebration of the music of Queen. and at the same time paying respect to Freddie Mercury's legacy as an artist, as a performer. So I have the impression that many of those negative reviews, and I read a few of them, center on the fact that what this movie didn't want to be. Okay, and the movie didn't want to be like a dark biopic drama centered on the personal life of Freddie Mercury. And I think that you need to appreciate this option of that story. You can tell, and you have the opportunity to tell that other option on an HBO series, something like that, and that would be great. But remember, Freddie Mercury was a person that wanted to be known as an artist through his work as a performer, and you get that in the film. You get that with Rami Malek's amazing, magnetic, electric performance. It's not just him being over the top or, you know, doing karaoke like some people are just saying. He was embodying the essence of Freddie Mercury. It's a magnetic presence. It's strong. It's vulnerable. It leaves an emotional impact when you see that.
So they did. You're right. They shot the Live Aid scene.
I didn't know that
first.
Wow.
And it took them like 5 or 6 days to do it. And the last day, which Rami Malek had pleaded with the producer Graham King, who was an Oscar-winning producer of The Departed. So, you know, they did, each day they shot a different song. And, you know, they did take after take after take of each song. And it was actually Rami's idea to go back to the producer and say, let's just take another day and let's just do the entire set from start to finish. Because he said, by shooting the entire scene straight through, you're going to get an authenticity, an organic energy that you're not getting by shooting the individual songs one at a time. And as a result of that, on the Blu-ray, the complete set of Live Aid, as performed by the filmmakers, by the actors, is on the Blu-ray, because they actually had to cut out a couple songs for time, although I mean I would have watched it, but they actually cut out a couple of the songs for the final version of the movie. So the full scene is on the Blu-ray, and that is definitely worth the price of the Blu-ray. But I love Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, this is a movie that I could watch it over and over again.
My daughter has seen it 4 times.
Your daughter?
She's 19. She's seen it 4 times.
And you know how many people have been introduced to the music of Queen because of this movie? I think it's just awesome. And you know, Bryan Singer, you know, he didn't finish up the movie, but Dexter Fletcher did. And Dexter Fletcher is the director of the upcoming movie about Elton John.
Rocket Man.
That movie is
that looks good too.
I'm very excited about that. If that
Rocket
sort
Man
of follows a similar type of you know, trajectory of Bohemian Rhapsody, that could be another big hit. Very, very excited. That movie opens in the summer. So, guys, thank you so much for being here.
Fun.
Thank you. So, isn't it fun?
It was a good week of movies.
Fun.
Are we grading Bohemian Rhapsody?
Great.
We go with A- because of that kind of the negative side of it is a bit formulaic, and they really hated formulas. So because of that,
I'm with him. A-.
Yeah. A- for me too. You know, I agree with you. The first part, especially the first part, a bit formulaic.
It's a little formulaic.
It got better as it went along, and it is a rousing.
I just love Queen.
It ends so strong. You're so pumped by the end of that movie. Now, Kit, where can people find you?
Well, I am editor and critic for Screen Picks, my site that I run, and also I'm on Twitter at The Movie Kit.
Movie Kit.
It's close to Movie Mantz, but it's The Movie Kit.
The Movie Kit. Nestor, where can people find you?
You can find me on desdehollywood.com, and you can look for me on YouTube and Twitter as Nestor Cine.
And are you on Instagram as well?
Instagram, Desde Hollywood, Nestor Cine, Twitter, and YouTube.
Okay. Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Movie Mantz. And make sure you hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you thought of the movies we talked about today, especially Bohemian Rhapsody. Listen, we're going into the Oscars. It's very, very exciting. And make sure you hit up Collider Video, at Collider Video, hashtag Movie Review Talk. Please share this video, retweet this video, share it with all your movie friends. We want to keep Review Talk going all the way through to 2019. We love doing the show. I love doing the show, and I love getting comments from you. So please comment below. Let us know what you thought of the movies, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast version. Listen to that. Review our podcast version of Movie Review Talk. It's on Podcast One. Next week, we have a brand new Dragon movie to talk about. And until then, here's looking at you, kid.